What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Dale and I like to make videos based off fitness and health, so if you are into that sort of thing, please consider subscribing below. So in this week's video, we're going to be talking about BMI, what it is, if there are positives, if there are negatives, and if we should continue using that in the future to determine how healthy a person is or is not. So let's get right into it. BMI stands for Body Mass Index, and essentially what it is a metric that we use to determine how healthy a person is based off of their body weight and their height. There are two formulas that are going to be on the screen right now, and those formulas are how BMI is determined, which will then categorize an individual into a category. There are four categories, which are underweight, normal range, overweight, and obese. You can see on the screen now the ranges of numbers that you get from that formula that is going to determine which category you are in. So let's get into some of the positives of BMI, what I do like about it, and we'll start right there. So one of the positives of BMI is that it gives people a general idea of how healthy they are, and we're talking about the average person. So someone who doesn't really exercise, someone who's not really an athlete, doesn't go the extra mile to maybe put on muscle mass or lose body fat, just the average person has a general idea using BMI to know how healthy they are. Another positive is that BMI works for most people. Like I said, this is the general public that does not exercise any extra, they do not weight lift, and they're not really athletes. So we're gonna obviously tap into that more when we get to the negatives, but right now I think that is a positive that it works for the average person for the most part. And the third positive, obviously, is that it's very simple. It's just a simple formula. It's a math equation. You plug your numbers in, and it spits out a number, and then you're categorized that way. So there's not really much thinking involved. All you have to do is plug in numbers. You can do it on a calculator, and bam, you know how healthy you are based off of those numbers. And now it is time to get into the negatives of BMI, and what I truly think is more impactful is the negative side of the BMI metric versus the positive, because the negative is it's just too generalized. Health is not a general thing, it's very individual based. So for example, I may be more or less healthy than my dad, who may be more or less healthy than my brother, who may be more or less healthy than my other brother. It's very, very individualized. It is not a general thing. So to just make something very simple that groups people into general categories is a bit unfair. Another negative is going to be that BMI does not take into consideration muscle mass. So people who weight lift or athletes are going to have their body weight higher because we know that muscle weighs more than fat. So the more muscle you have, the heavier you're going to be, and it doesn't really take into account your body fat percentage. So for example, we're going to look at me right now at my current body weight of 177 pounds. Calculating my BMI using my height and my current weight, my BMI is 26.1. Now 26.1, you will notice, puts me in the overweight category. I don't think anybody looking at this picture would look at that and say that I am overweight or that I'm unhealthy, because there's four categories in the BMI table. That table shows underweight, which is generally unhealthy, normal weight, which is more or less healthy, overweight, which is unhealthy, and obese, which is unhealthy. So you see, overweight and unhealthy go hand in hand, and I don't think anyone would look at this picture of me and say that I am unhealthy, and definitely not overweight. So some risks of being overweight include high blood pressure, high cholesterol, type 2 diabetes, increased chance of heart disease, stroke, gallbladder disease, osteoarthritis, sleep apnea, respiratory problems, and some cancers, among other things that obviously come with being overweight. Now, I'm sure some of you can relate to the feeling that I'm having right now, where you go on WebMD and type in that your body's overheating, and all of a sudden it tells you that you have some terminal illness that you'll never be able to recover from. That's how I feel right now, just based off my BMI and looking up the risks of the category that I fall into. The kicker is I'm a very healthy individual. My diet is very healthy. I make sure to get a bunch of macro and micronutrients into my diet every single day. I weight train. I do cardio, recommended 150 minutes per week. So I'm a very healthy individual. I was an athlete my whole life and I lift weights. So I don't think I'd fall into the risk category of those risks that I just listed. This is the biggest drawback of the BMI, is that it is recommended that people do both resistance training and cardio 150 minutes per week. And if you're doing that and putting on muscle mass and decreasing body fat, the BMI becomes more and more inaccurate the farther you go into it. So I think that's a big drawback of BMI and why I don't really think it's the most accurate way to represent how healthy somebody really is. So like I said, BMI is just way too general for me and something that's a very individualized field such as fitness and health. You're not going to be able to look at somebody and tell how healthy they are, just like if you looked at someone that was in the normal weight range, no problem, and they've been smoking cigarettes for 60 years, they're probably going to have a higher chance of a lung disease than someone whose BMI, like myself, is overweight, but very in shape, very on top of their diet, and they exercise all the time. So is there a better metric to decide how healthy someone is? I don't know. I'm sure there is. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I figured it out and I know which method should be used to determine how healthy someone is. I really don't know. I'd like to see some thoughts on that though. If you want to leave it in the comments below what you think people should do. I don't know if they should take a yearly fitness assessment similar to ones that we had in PE class back in the day. You should just go off of body fat percentage. If there's no method at all, I really don't know. So leave what you think in the comments below. I'm curious to see what you guys have to say, and I look forward to reading them. So that's going to be it for this week's video. I really appreciate you guys checking it out. If you learned anything of value, please consider subscribing, hit the like button, turn on post notifications. I post videos every Sunday. If you like this video, check out the one that's on the screen right now. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.